Yo, what is up? It's your boy James, aka The Comic Raider. It is another Sunday. That means we got football. That means we got NASCAR. Our boy Tyler Reddick is, trying to stay in the playoffs here. But that also means it is another day for me to drop a what I read this week. So, I will say that most of the issues that I'm about to discuss today, I have not picked up from my LCS yet. So, I only have a couple to physically show you. I am going to work on trying to do a better job of that and making sure that I have the copies on hand. I will say I'm going to do a little soft announcement launch here. I'm going to do a new series where I kind of go over my pull list whenever I do pick it up, which is typically monthly or every other month. And, just everything that I'm picking up from that pull list, really. Not necessarily going into, oh, this is the review, blah, 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 but just here's what I picked up, here's a dope cover, here's a dope story, whatever it may be. Now, I will announce that this series is not going to be on this channel. You're going to have to make sure that you follow the Comic Book Fiend Club YouTube channel, where we do a bunch of dope stuff over there, and that will be a series that I will be dropping over on that channel for some new content over there. I do believe Chris Dollar Bandit will be also doing that. His is probably going to be more consistent than mine. But yeah, so make sure that you are following, again, the Comic Book Fiend Club on YouTube so you can check out those videos when they drop. I do plan on making one of those sometime this week. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into them so I don't run out of time like I always do. I am going to start with the most anticipated book of, for sure, the end of the year, if not the whole year, but that is going to be Absolute Batman #1 by Scott Snyder. Let's be real now. Anytime a book is like this hyped, sometimes it might not live up to that hype, but I will say that this one absolutely does. I am looking up real quick because I didn't want to get it wrong. But the artist on it, which is Nick Dragotta. So I wanted to make sure that I looked that up and got it right, because I thought that together this was a great mashup. I was a little worried. I love Scott Snyder's writing. I love Scott Snyder on Batman. A big part of what made the Batman, New 52 was, of course, Scott Snyder's amazing writing, but it's also Greg Capullo's great artwork, right? It was that perfect combo of, if you're an art fan, you enjoyed it. If you're a writing fan, you enjoyed it, right? So I was a little worried that, we were going to get this awesome new Batman with Scott Snyder, but what if the artwork doesn't hit? I will say it still hits. Nick Dragotta does an amazing job on the artwork. I am really digging it for sure. So Absolute, Batman kicking off the Absolute universe, which is kind of like, DC's version of DC's version of Marvel's Ultimate Universe, and, coming up with characters that we know, but changing them up a bit. And, man, they did an excellent job with this one. It is a nice spin. You get a different, why Batman became Batman. It's still the same tragedy, but there's some changes to even the tragedy that occurs with his parents. Number one, what his parents do for a living. Then number two, what happens and how it happens is changed. That was great. Batman, Bruce Wayne, is not the rich guy in this series. He's not rich and has a butler. You do get Alfred Pennyworth, who I see is making a little appearance right there. But he is, Pennyworth I'm talking about, is actually like a merc for hire, right? He is in the story, plays a heavy part in this first issue. He is brought to, there's a group called the Party Animals, if I remember correctly. They were called the Party Animals. They are a gang that is terrorizing Gotham right now, and he is sent to kind of gather intel on them. Don't engage them, but just gather intel. And then also we know that there is another player involved in the story. Watch him too, who is Batman. And so you get a different Alfred Pennyworth, which is really cool. And then you get to see the two of them, of course, at some point in the story they're gonna meet, so they end up meeting and having to fight and battle it out, and a couple times actually, and it's great. It's great to see a different, like, Batman versus Alfred Pennyworth, who is a total badass, and I really did appreciate that twist. You also get, you know, all your typical villains. I would say whether you see them in the book or whether they are just mentioned, you basically get like the who's who of the Batman rogues, right? I'm not gonna like go over each and every single one of them. You do need to read this issue, but you know, they're all there. It's not really, it's so many Easter eggs that it's not even really worth, you know, it just, all the villains are either mentioned or seen in some way, shape, or form. And it's interesting to see the ones that we do, how they're changed, and what's going to happen with the ones that we haven't seen yet. I'm looking forward to that. As far as like the party animals, you know, one of the things that really stands out is the violence in this. The artwork is amazing, but it's also written very violently. Like what you see the part now, they show just enough of the party animals to like get you to visually understand what's going on. There's like little like news clips that you see. Like the one that I'm thinking of is there's a body laying on the ground and you see a character with their leg up like they're about to stomp them on the head. And it's a lady wearing high heels. So you imagine that hurts even more. And so you're like, okay, this lady's about to stomp this dude in the head. Like you see that. That gives you the visual aspect. But throughout the story, all these different news reports of what these guys are doing, just the writing of what they're doing is absolutely awful. This is a vile group. Very violent. It is like these guys are bad news. And then you also get Black Mask as a pretty important villain right now in the series in just issue number 1. And it's a different take on Black Mask. You know, he's got a family. He also has a very weird shaped mask, but it's still Black Mask. Like the moment I saw it, I was like, that's gotta be him. Sure enough, yes it was. So he's a big part of this. His scene with the Falcone and Maronis was great. Like there's just so much to it, and the action scene of Batman going up against the party animals is again extremely violent, but it's also narrated by Pennyworth, and I thought that was an amazing take on it. You know, you get to see all the different gadgets, and again, speaking to the violence, you know, his gauntlets and those spikes, he's really using those as spikes and as, you know, sharp objects. Of course, you know, some of this stuff was already kind of spoiled for us, but the whole long pointy ears are because they come off and become like 2 knives for him, or he can throw them at people, which he does both. You know, and Alfred makes a point of saying, like, you are violent. You are, the scene is so bloody, but you are precisely missing all their arteries, all their major arteries. So you're not trying to kill. And he admired that in a sense, you know, but it, you know, again, so it's some of the stuff for Batman is, you know, his moral code in a sense is still there, but he is very violent. This is one of the more violent versions of Batman that I've seen in a long time. And then there's a scene where a brute steps up and he's got like, I don't remember, he has like his own big sword, or I forgot what weapon he has, but he has something, you know, that's going to do some damage. And he's a big brute character with the mask on. And then, of course, you get the Batman takes out his staff, and then he connects it to the chest plate, and the big chest plate logo comes off, and now he has an axe. And then he proceeds to chop this man's hand right off. That was amazing. That was violent. That was something I have not seen Batman do before, and it was great. So, yeah, absolutely. The cape is also a very interesting addition. It is very like thin but spread out wingspan wise, and it's got like, it looks like he has kind of like claws at the end in a sense, and he uses them. Like this cape is very, I don't want to relate like Batman to Spawn, but I'm going to, because I'm also staring at a brand new Spawn figure that I have. But like the cape is a real weapon. It's not alive, but the cape is being utilized as more than just, this is a cape that I can glide in or cover myself and hide with. The cape is very much a part of his arsenal in ways that I haven't seen again in a while. So I guess that's pretty much it, unless I like broke down the whole entire issue. But absolute Batman #1, absolutely, pun intended, crushed it. And this is gonna be a very this is gonna be a big series, and I would suggest you jump on it ASAP. I'm also very much now looking forward to Superman and Wonder Woman and seeing what type of changes they have. You know, Superman is a very simple, you know, Krypton blows up, he's sent off in rocket ship, he crash lands on a farm raised by the Kents. Like, how much of that is going to change, and what parts of that are going to change, you know? And I'm really looking forward to this stuff. It's going to be cool. And yeah, so let's move on to some Marvel. We'll do Wolverine Revenge, issue #2. I really liked the first one, written Jonathan Hickman with art by Greg Capullo, and I just love seeing Capullo draw some of these Marvel characters. This issue was very good. You have Wolverine recovering from issue 1. You also have Nick Fury, you know, of course, manages to find his way out of issue #1 as well. They're like the last two left. He's basically telling him, like, we're all that's left, man. The only American dream we got left is some missiles floating out in the ocean, and who knows how long that's going to last for. So Wolverine kind of goes off and does his own thing. He's traveling the forest. He finds oh gosh, what is her name? Oh, she was in that New Mutants movie. She has the fear angry demon bears. I got Moon stuck in my head, but I'm thinking like Moonshine because I am an alcoholic. No, I'm kidding. But it's not Moonshine. Moon something, right? And she's got the demon bears. That's her power. He finds her, and then he also finds Forge, and basically they are still having power. They're still running off of power. Again, Magneto has died, and so he let off an EMP when he died and crash landed, and the whole world is without power. Forge has managed to find a power source, and they are living on power right now. And so they get into like why and how. They also dig up Magneto and use his helmet, and you find out it's because Wolverine goes up against again, I'm forgetting his name too. Megamind is not it. Mastermind, something like that. I'm forgetting the character's name. The bad guy from the first one, he goes up against him, and you know, he tries to control him, but he can't because he's wearing it's Magneto's helmet being worn by Wolverine, and it was pretty cool. And so he basically, spoiler alert, decapitates him, and you know, now he can't be controlling people anymore. It's kind of like the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants in this one. They kind of broke up. Like, he's trying to find them. Where is Deadpool? Where's Colossus? Where is Sabretooth? Where's Omega Red? And so then he brings the head back to Forge. Forge dissects it and is able to use his back memories to find out where they're at. So first he goes up against Sabretooth, and now is when you get like the real fight and violence and gore of this series that you're kind of waiting for and hoping for. Absolutely amazing battle fight between Sabretooth and Wolverine. And I did read the Red Band. I'm not sure how much has changed from the Red Band to the regular, but I'll basically just say Wolverine, Sabretooth, Greg Capullo art. Enough said. Like, that's all you need to know. It is amazing to see him draw these characters. It is amazing to see how violent this fight between the two of them is. Sabretooth beats his ass pretty much for a lot of it. The banter between the two of them back and forth, you know, it's amazing. Read this series. It was so good. This battle between the two of them, and ultimately Wolverine getting the upper hand, and it's going to continue on in the next one, because oh man, this one ended some type of way that I am just totally blanking on, but or maybe it ended with the two of them still technically fighting. It's just damn good. The point is, it's a really good series. I am really enjoying that one for sure. Next, we are going to go with Ultimate Black Panther #9. Continuing on with the Ultimate Universe and Black Panther, I thought this was really good. Storm and Killmonger find the Sorcerer Supreme that they were looking for, and it ends up being a female, and I don't know if we're supposed to know who it is, because I don't. It's a brunette female. She's got like a mask covering her because they're trying to, like, she's locked up in this place, and a lot of like violence occurs during this episode. When they find her, she's also kind of in the process of breaking out, and it's really good. And so, like I said, I don't know if we're supposed to know who she is, though. If you do know who she is, please let me know in the comments below, because I did not catch who that's supposed to be. But nonetheless, they find the Sorcerer Supreme, and now they're going to figure out whether they can work with her or not. She gives off Joker villain type vibes from this issue, so she doesn't seem like she's trustable. Meanwhile, T'Challa is watching. It was either Raw or Concho. I think it was Raw. He's giving like a speech to an African village, and is like really trying to turn them against Wakanda and really start a holy war, is how T'Challa describes it. And he's basically like, I could just attack him right now. But his sister Shuri's like, no, like, don't. You're alone. You know, wait for Killmonger and Aurora. We'll figure out what's going on together. Like, don't run up on him right now. And he tells her, like, you've won this time. So it's building to this holy war and this really good war between Black Panther and the Moon Knight group. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this all turns out. So it was a filler issue in the sense of it is setting up, you know, for bigger things. But I still enjoyed the issue, maybe just not as much as some of the other ones. But I'm still digging this and seeing where this is going to go. X-Men number 5, speaking of filler issues, I kind of found this one to be that. It is Psylocke and, excuse me, is it Quentin? The other character who's also a psychic, you know, with the psychic abilities. And so in the previous issue, they find the guy who was the most recent one to have his mutant thing activated. So in this issue, they have to team up together to get inside of his mind, and the idea is to kind of bring him out of this coma that he's kind of basically in. And so it's this issue of the two of them are inside his mind, but then of course it goes wrong because someone is inside of his mind waiting for them, waiting for someone to try and do this, and it turns out to be Cassandra Nova. I think I have the name right. The villain we just saw from Deadpool Wolverine. So she is inside the mind, and they're a group going by 3K. They almost were kind of like alien abducting people in a sense, and then experimenting on them and getting that gene to kick in. And so Psylocke and the other character find this out and discover this and have to work really hard to get out of the mind again. And then they basically report to Cyclops and Beast, like, this is what's going on. She is one of the main people in this group, and they are for sure activating this gene in people. So, kind of, again, a filler issue of just setting us up, like, how is this happening, right? And then in the next issue, it looks like it's going to take two different members from the group, and they're going to kind of have some team-up, not team-up because they're already on a team, but it's going to be another group of characters from the group, and they're going to go off and have their own issue. So, we'll see where X-Men 6 goes. The next one is Epitaphs from the Abyss, 1 through 3. So now we're going to jump into, so in this episode we will have covered DC, Marvel, and now EC Comics. So that's pretty cool. So this is what I'm talking about here. Epitaphs from the Abyss. Amazing. Absolutely killer Lee Bermejo cover right here. Right, he's one of my favorite artists. So right away I already knew that this was this was my guy. Overall, I mean, I'm basically just going to discuss 1 through 3. He's doing all the covers. This is his cover for issue number 2 here. The thing that I really liked about issue number 1 is this cover is actually in the book. Like, you know how sometimes covers have nothing to do with the series, or like Spawn is kind of notorious for like a cover is really showing something that's going to happen a few issues later. This one actually like had that image in the cover, and I love that. I love any time that the cover truly embodies what is inside the book. Now you also get to see like how different artwork is. It's the same image, but when Lee Bermejo does it with his very realism painting type art, and then you have same exact image, in a more cartoonish horror type. And so yeah, it is. It's a bunch of mini stories all put together with different writers and different artists on each. In this first issue, we have Brian Azzarello as one of the writers. In another one, I think issue 2 or 3, we have a Jason Aaron story. Like, it's pretty cool. And, so it's just a bunch of, you have the Gravedigger, gives you your intro in every issue here. And, just a bunch of mini stories that cover different things. It's not as, if I'm being honest, like, it's not as terrifying as I kind of would want it to be. But it's still good though. Like the first story is about a guy who's a writer who can't come up with anything, and then his roommate, who he thinks is a loser, he writes something just for the fun of it, and it ends up being an amazing story. So of course he can't let that happen, so he kills him, and then the guy ends up turning into a zombie and killing him back. And so it's violent and there's some coolness to that. The second one, and here's an example of the artwork from that first story. And then the second one was a lady who is a journalist, and she realizes that a senator is kind of flip-flopped on her stance, and then she's trying to figure out why. She ends up following the senator to a hotel, ends up meeting a guy in a suit, and the guy in a suit basically explains to her before he kills her himself, is oh yeah, if we don't like your stance, we just pluck it out. So there's the senator. They are operating on her and fixing her mindset. So it's kind of, obviously you can take this to a much deeper sense, but the point just being that yeah, we pluck it out if we don't like how you think. The third one was interesting. I actually really liked this one. It was a guy who, it was a husband, he and his family, they are, someone breaks into their house and ties him up in the basement and basically gives him a timer. You have 5 minutes to decide if you are going to kill yourself, or kill someone in the family, yourself or one of your family members, or we're going to kill everybody. And so it's this big, does he kill himself? Does he kill his wife? Does he kill his kids? Obviously, there's some, arguing that goes on here, and not in a very loving way. It's more so, the wife for a minute tells him, he can't go through with killing himself. And his wife says, if you don't, then then you will have to kill one of us. And he's like, so it should be me? Are you saying that I need to kill myself instead of one of you guys? And I'm not going to get into, what I would do and all that kind of stuff. I'm just saying that that's the whole point of the book, is she comes across as very yeah, kill yourself, mofo. And he's like, whoa, slow down here. And they get into an argument, then the son gets involved, and it is just very interesting. I will tell you that, I'm not going to say how it ends. It's really good, him trying to decide while he's arguing with them, and whether or not arguing with his family makes his decision a little easier or not. Kind of does. And so, in the end, he does something. He makes a choice. And then you have this guy, and this is the end, and I thought this was so good. It ends with a guy is watching and is like, oh my God. But then he's happy because he bet on this. He's watching this. This is being streamed. He watched it and he bet on the, how it was going to end, and he won. He won how it was. And then the last panel is now the dude's pulling up to his house. So I took this as, a play on family, a play on, also gambling and society and all that kind of stuff, watching stuff like this in real life, It's kind of sick. But also the gambling aspect. You do it because you're trying to, if money's involved and I can earn money, I'll sell my soul and, watch this terrible stuff. But in the end, he wins and he's the next target now. So he's going to have to, he is now put in this situation. So now does that mean that was the process? Like every time one of these guys wins, or whoever, guy or girl, anytime someone wins, they're now the next target, but they don't know that. Awesome. That was a good story. The next one was like, again, could be taken much deeper. These monsters that I was referring to that are on the cover are people who have been vaccinated. And so, like, they're trying to go after two people that were not vaccinated. And it's like this arguing over, don't let them vaccinate me. And, So, these stories kind of do touch on some topics that are very real. And I think that's kind of the point, is to, like, give you a different form of horror, like a more realistic horror, right? Because it's dealing with, to some people, that type of stuff is real life horror. Politics and, being vaccinated or not being vaccinated. And, so I thought it was interesting. The second one, we've got a story of some of the artwork I like, some I don't. The second one was a guy who gets in a fight. There's like a gang that's, causing violence. He ends up falling and hitting his head on a nail through his temple. So then he basically goes around and kills people by stabbing them in the temple. It did end pretty violently there with showing him like putting that nail in a guy's temple. The second one was a lady who went to get groceries and then she kind of like freezes there, like she's so stuck. And then she turns into like a zombie because someone comes into the store and then she goes to attack them and they kill her. And it was whatever. The third one, again, dealing with real life stuff. The third one was a kid who wakes up in the hospital and his phone is going off and he's like, oh, my phone, I need to check my phone. Oh, why is my finger missing? And then he realizes that a nurse is basically like holding him hostage in a sense. He was driving and texting and then he crashed and he killed the family that he crashed into. And so this nurse has basically taken him, and every time he reaches for his phone, she cuts off another finger. But because he's so addicted to his phone, he can't let his phone go. So she just keeps cutting off more and more and more fingers. And it ends with him realizing that at this point he has no hands left, but his phone is still going off and he is still addicted to trying to get that phone. And it was good. It was a very interesting, very real sentiment. Issue number 3, holy moly, I am totally forgetting. Issue number 3 I have not picked up yet. Oh man, that is a fail. I can't even remember the stories from the third one. Oh my goodness. I don't know. I think maybe on the next episode I'll touch on issue number 3 because I read it and I don't remember any of the stories. Basically, look, it's stuff like that. It's a bunch of short stories dealing with horror. Some are more violent and some are more in a realistic twist, right? But that's kind of what you expect from this series. I would like to see more terrifying stories. I think maybe it's like I'd say it's like a 50-50 rate right now as far as like really good stories and then just meh. So yeah, I'd like to see this continuing on and getting more and more and more of these short stories and seeing how gnarly they can get. But yeah, so that's gonna do it for me. I think I did a pretty good job here of explaining all the stories that I needed to and keeping it within a relatively good time frame. So that's going to do it for me. Again, make sure you follow Comic Book Fiend Club. That's where I'm going to do my LCS hauls. And then keep up on this. I dropped the Terrifier 3 review the other day. Please check that out. Terrifier 3 was amazing. Go watch it. I also did a comic book haul. I've got a video this week to upload. I got a toy haul. So I've got a lot of content coming. Not a lot, but I got content coming. And also make sure you follow and check out the low grades every Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Check us out on there. And that's going to do it for me, man. Appreciate all the love and support as always. And stay safe out there, people. The Comic Raider is out, baby. Deuces.